Heyo! Welcome to the Haunted Chronicles. Thank you all for listening tonight, and thank you all who tolerated my Facebook drama this week, and we'll talk about that in a minute. We have two special guests joining us shortly. Marty Stalker, who's directing an upcoming feature documentary on Malachi Martin's life, and Malachi's close friend, Rob Marro. Even though Facebook disagrees, I am Mr. Haunted, and I'm joined again by the babyface assassin, Brock Burrows. Brock?
Hello. How's it going? Well, you know, it was quite interesting this week with your Facebook drama.
I don't want to take too much away from our guests' time, but for all those that followed me, I lost my Facebook page. They totally made it disappear just because I had Haunted as my middle name. And I had to show photo ID by email, and it took 3 days for me to get it back, and it was a little dramatic going back and forth there. But everybody thought I disappeared, but I'm back.
Yeah, and I talked to Mark Zuckerberg. That's what we got. I got it back for you.
Thank you very much. Brock, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. It's, the weather outside's a little bit crappy. We had a little bit of ice, and they're supposed to, pretty much. It's supposed to switch over to more sleet and snow tonight, but it's supposed to be out of here in the morning, so I'm pretty good. But how are you today, Jimmy?
You want to know how I'm doing, Brock?
I do.
I'm happier than a yellow-bellied slider turtle swimming merrily through the cool azure waters of the Atlantic by Cracky.
Always hilarious. Always.
It's pretty good right there.
That in there, that's pretty happy.
It's ecstatic.
Huh?
I'm going to get right into scary movie celebrity birthdays.
Yay.
If you don't mind.
Let's do it.
All right. Our first one, and I noticed just as much as I mentioned Brady Bunch, you talk about Saved by the Bell, I noticed. So,
yeah.
Tiffany Amber Thiessen, and I didn't do my addition, so I'm in big trouble. Tiffany Amber Thiessen celebrates a birthday this week. She was in Saved by the Bell, Pandemic, From Dusk Till Dawn 2, Shriek, If You Know What You Did Last Friday the 13th.
Oh yeah, she is gorgeous too. She's older than I am. I'm gonna say she's in her 40s, so let's go with 40.
She is 40. She'll be 41 later this week.
Sweet.
And would you guys believe I didn't do the additions yet? So I'm doing them on the fly. So I hope I'm right. Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong.
It's all good.
I screwed up. Toby Hooper, filmmaker known for Salem's Lot, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and of course Poltergeist. How old will Toby be? He's still around.
Oh, so that gives me a hint right there because I can't picture him. 74?
Very close. He'll be 72.
Okay. Here comes the buzzer.
And this one, terrible preparation today. Okay. How about Matthew Lillard? Do you know him by name?
No.
Well, Matthew Lillard was the fella that was in Scream, 13 Ghosts. He was Shaggy in Scooby-Doo, and he was in Area 57. He's the guy that had one of the best quotes ever when at the end of Scream, they were stabbing each other to make it look like they were attacked. And he goes, "I'm getting woozy here." And his friend kept stabbing him.
Yeah. Yeah. He's got to be close to Tiffany, too. 43?
Oh, so close. He'll be 45. I can't believe these people are that old. I thought they were kids.
I know. Yeah, I mean.
Wow.
That's a different type of buzzer.
And how about Mimi Rogers? She was in Ginger Snaps, Penny Dreadful, and Hider in the House. And she used to be married to Tom Cruise back in the day.
In that case, I'm going to say she's 60.
Oh, She's going to be 59.
Oh, man.
Last week,
bad day.
5 out of 6.
Aww.
I think Marty and Rob are ready to leave.
Yeah.
I've ordered a taxi, so.
I got one more. Christian Bale, who is in American Psycho, Batman, The Dark Knight Rises, and the Prestige. And he had the best rant ever. If you guys look it up on YouTube, Christian Bale rant, which we can't play on the air, but it's one of the best rants ever.
41.
Yes, we got one.
Ah, hit one.
Correct. There you go. There's a paper crumb. All right. And this is the true story. I was trying to prepare to make a grand introduction about Malachi Martin, and he just did so much in his life that it would be a 10-page report that I'm too stupid to make, and it's so much material. So I figured, let me just start with how I became familiar with him, and then we'll go from there. I was going every Monday night, as we've talked about before. I used to go to Ed and Lorraine Warren's classes every Monday night, and at the time, we would review old cases, share our material, and current ones. They teach us stuff, and we'd have an occasional guest speaker. Matter of fact, one of our past guests, Ralph Sarchi, was also a speaker that came and talked to us once. And I remember them telling us one week, they said, next week, an exorcist, Malachi Martin, who just wrote a book, The Hostage to the Devil, will be coming to speak to us. And I was like, oh my God, I never heard of him before, but I said, an exorcist is coming to speak to us. And I went out and bought the book the next day. And I read it that week. And these are some of the quotes from the inside of the book about Malachi Martin. From the New York Times, Martin is concerned with the fate of modern man. He has an ability to argue a case very forcefully and make strong judgments. From the Dallas Morning News, in biblical times, they would have called him a prophet. And if the stuff that's going on right now that he wrote about 20 years ago that's coming true is amazing. From the San Francisco Examiner, there's a magnetism about him that draws from others' thought and feelings they didn't know were there. And I was talking to Rob earlier about what we were talking about, and he made me feel very special the day I met him. Anyway, tonight we have the director of the upcoming feature documentary about the life of Malachi Martin. The title right now, we hope, is The Hostage to the Devil, and he flew in to join us in Haunted Chronicles Studios. Writer, producer, director, and my new friend, Marty Stalker. And we also have Malachi Martin's close friend, Rob Marro.
Hello.
Marty, Rob?
Hello.
Hey, gents.
Or just so they know, who's Marty and who's Rob?
I'm the one who speaks very fast, so I'm Marty. I'm the director, so I'll be speaking very fast, so you Americans probably won't understand what I'm saying, so I apologize now.
And Rob is also executive producer. We got
these guys very kindly looped me in, and I was more than happy to help.
And you could put me in there too. Anyway, I'm trying to figure. I searched for when I first joined Facebook. I immediately I just am fascinated by Malachi Martin's life, and I told you that I listened to the Art Bell interviews over and over and over again. There's like maybe 7 or 8 of them, maybe. And I was trying to find any Malachi Martin Facebook page just to like it and follow it and see what I could learn further. And I came across your page for your upcoming feature documentary, and maybe a year or so ago. And I've been talking to Chris, who's also a producer, right? I'm trying to learn the positions.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Right. I've been talking to Chris for almost probably a year. And we were going back and forth, just talking, friendly. And I said, if there's any way I can help you guys with this, not that I can do anything really, but if there's any way I can help you, I will. And I've been sharing your page on my page, and I'm trying to help you guys any way I can. And just last week, Marty, you contacted me and agreed to come on and talk with us. And you simply wanted to come on and ask if any listeners had any personal experiences with Malachi Martin, or if they know anyone.
Yeah, I think when I was first approached by Causeway Pictures in Ireland, who are film producers for a film production company, I was sort of struggling to find people who, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of people out there who have opinions of Malachi and who have never met him in person. So, but they have strong opinions about the guy. And I needed, as a writer director, I needed to find people and interview people who had direct first encounter, proper encounters with Malachi Martin. Sorry. So that would, I mean, people were either dying or they were off radar. They were weren't sort of communicating to us all. So for me, the priority was over the last 2.5 years was to find actual people who actually met Malachi in one way or the other, and that's where Roberts. That's where I got to know Roberts quite well. And at first, I wasn't sure, what to make of the whole thing. And then as I started to speak to Robert even more, it was just I just knew he was a crucial member of the team, basically, and also as it stands now is one of the main narrators of the film, because he was very close to Malachi for the last 10 years of his life, and for me as a filmmaker, that is crucial evidence, and that is crucial, and that is a crucial source for me. Writing a story about a man who is wrapped up in mystery from day one. I spent 2.5 years up and down with where I can go with the story. What I found very quickly was not to go on internet forums and not to search him via the internet, because there was all sorts of, as you can imagine, conspiracy theories, random stuff on the internet forums, and also very controversial stuff where I thought, you should not be using this as a way of research. So I had to physically ring people up and speak to them on the telephone or speak to them on Skype and actually get their stories and start to write a narrative around it. And I knew the film producers originally 3 years ago wanted to make a feature film about Malachi Martin, and unfortunately the issue was nobody outside America or the East Coast of America or whatever knew Malachi at all. Europe, the UK, and nobody knew of him. So how could these film producers make a feature film and make it successful? Which at the end of the day, the film industry is a business. How could they make a successful film about a man that nobody had heard of before? I know I'm sure a lot of your listeners will be like, oh my God, I can't believe nobody knows this guy. It's true. Nobody knew Malachi Martin. And once I started my research 2.5 years ago, it was like, oh my word, I was totally, I was overwhelmed with his life in the sense of you could make 4 films of his life. So the important thing for me was to really, first of all, specify the route I was taking, specify an area of his life which I needed to make write a story about. And we ended up picking exorcism for 2 reasons. First of all, it's an extremely entertaining subject, and also the second reason, which the producers are happy about, is it's commercial. It sells films. People are curious about exorcism. They'll go out to the cinemas, or they'll go out and watch it on Netflix, or they'll pay for it, a VOD, for example. But so we actually 2.5 years ago, we said, right, I was totally overwhelmed, and I thought, right, we need to specify where we're going with this, and it's taken. I've been up and down with the story. It's been incredible. It's been an incredible journey. The behind the scenes on this film itself is going to be fascinating watch. And myself, I've had to make a decision about the man as well. As a filmmaker, you can't remain unbiased. You have to either, the protagonist is Malachi Martin, and you could say the antagonist is the devil, is the demons out there, whatever you want to, however you want to call it. So for me, I did, to be honest, I spent 2 years deciding of how I felt about Malachi Martin as a person, as a human being, and was told from day one that you had to make that decision. There's no way you can remain unbiased on about the protagonist. So for me as a filmmaker and a writer, it's been an extremely positive and incredible journey. And but at the end of the day, I wanted to do this right, and I wanted to tell this story in the right way. And it has taken 2.5 years. Obviously, other financial, finding the funding to make it. And we've been to Berlin, we've been to Cannes with it a year and a half ago. People were saying, we love the idea. You'll have no problem selling the film, but we're not going to help you make it. So we're in a difficult situation where we were like, should we just do this on our own and try and find the funds elsewhere? But thank the Lord, last year, like the Irish Film Board went, right, we're going to help you out here, and we're going to help you make it. And we were like totally overwhelmed. We were at a crossroads. We were at a crossroads at the time where we were thinking, do we do this on our own? It won't be the best it could be, or do we just keep hanging around and wait for the funding to come in? And fortunately for us, the funding came in, and now we're allowed to tell the story in the best possible situation where we have the funding. So now I can finish off the interviews in February, for example, this year, and I can come back to Ireland in March and then finish off and actually recreate some awesome reconstructions with a proper film crew, a proper cinematographer, full, experienced film industry professionals, and actually do the film justice in a sense that, it's not going to be some sort of indie guerrilla style filmmaking, experience. It's actually going to be cinematic. It's going to be filmic. You're going to watch it, and it's a film. It's going to feel like a film. Even the interviews, even the stuff we filmed now over the last 2.5 years, it's going to look filmic, and I'm extremely excited about it. It's my debut feature as well, so you can imagine what I'm like. I can't sleep. My wife thinks I'm crazy. She's she always knows I'm crazy, but I just think about me. I'm a filmmaker, so my passion is film, and I love it. I love going to cinema. I love watching it on TV. I love film, and I think that's helped me write the story that it is now. It's been on an organic process where the narrative arc's changed all over the place, and now I'm really happy with where I am with the story. And no matter what you do in the film, whether it be a short film, music video, feature film, feature documentary, it all starts with story from the script, and then everything else is built around that. So it's taken me 2.5 years to get where I want to be now, and I'm extremely excited about the future, really.
Me too. And just for your information, we're dropping links to your 2 Facebook pages that we talked about earlier in the chat room. So people, please click on them and like them, and you can follow the process of the film. And also, I will share them on my page later this week for all you guys that are in the chat.
Great.
And we'll get a ton of new likes for you. I might have missed it, but did you mention if you were familiar with his life before they approached you with the film?
Oh, so the spooky thing is, I was actually writing a script about my own father who had experienced an exorcism in a place called Liverpool in England, where the Beatles were from. Yeah. So I was actually writing a script at the time when I got the phone call, and it was Paddy and Chris from Causeway Pictures, and they actually, they invited me to come into the studio for a meeting, and it was quite weird because I actually was writing a script about my own father's experiences, and then once they told me about the project, basically they came over to me and handed me the research they've already done, and it was like, wow, it was like the whole table was full of just research papers, and they said, like, just go away and try and find some sort of narrative arc out of all of this. And at first I was excited but also overwhelmed at the same time. So it has taken a while to get where I was, but no, unfortunately I knew nothing of Malachi before I was approached by the producers.
Well, that's probably a good thing in a way.
Oh yeah, I mean, it means I'm coming in with a fresh pair of eyes, and and I've been, I work quite a lot in Washington DC, so I work in Ireland, and unfortunately for me, I also work in Washington DC quite a lot. And I used to go out running. Where I'm staying is right by Woodbury Park, which is a beautiful area of Washington DC, by Georgetown, right near the Exorcist steps. Sorry. And
from the movie.
Yeah, in the movie, yeah. So I go down there quite a lot to I do quite a lot of jogging. So I put the headphones in and I just listen to I'm sure you do quite a lot, is listen to the Coast to Coast interviews.
I thought you said I do a lot of jogging.
Yeah, I
No,
do a lot of jogging just
I
purely
don't.
just to keep my. That's okay. No, but I mean, sometimes I'm in a studio or I'm in an edit booth and I don't get a chance to get out. So when I do get the opportunity, I get out with a pair of headphones on and just sort of listen to Malachi in interviews, and it's just, I mean, especially the coast to coast, it's fascinating. Listen,
Gold.
it's
Literally listen to it. If for anybody in the chat, we're going to go over. Some people probably don't even know who he is, but I every time I listen to it, it's fresh to me. Like, I don't know what it is about the way he speaks or just his experiences. I can't stop listening to it. And if you guys want to find him, just type in Malachi Martin and on YouTube with Coast to Coast, and I think he did 7 or 8 shows with Art Bell, and they're like 4 hours each or something. And it's I know you guys would like it. Well, actually,
go on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. Go on. I'll go.
Go ahead.
No, we have a few minutes before break, but where were we?
We were talking about Malachi Martin.
Yep, we were.
And I think it would be a good.
We got about 5 minutes, and either you or Rob could, for people in the chat and people listening, could you tell me? I know it's impossible because I try to do it myself, but could you just give me a little brief history of his life? I mean, he had a whole life before his exorcisms.
I can do that. I can do that very quickly, actually.
Please do.
Malachi was born over in Ireland in County Kerry back in 1921. He was one of 9 kids, actually, came from a large family. His family was fully derived from Irish ancestry, going all the way back. I think he told me back to the time of William the Conqueror. And all of his brothers and sisters, except one, entered religious life. So, and one interesting thing is he joined the Jesuits back in the late 1930s. And I remember him telling me that before he joined the Jesuits, as there's some kind of like Boy Scout organization they had in the 1930s in Ireland that used to do traveling. And if you'll remember at the time, the actual country of Ireland had a very antagonistic relationship with England. So he told me as a result of that, they went and they toured some capitals in Europe that were not exactly friendly in the then looming build-up to the war. And he told me that he had actually met, as part of this small scout delegation, Adolf Hitler and Benito Mussolini while they were in Rome. And he said there was something about Adolf Hitler that when you met him, there was something about him that glittered with evil, I think was the way he put it. And then he said, when you met Benito Mussolini, you had to walk across a large room to where he was sat at like a formal greeting area of the greeting hall at the other end. And he said, Benito Mussolini judged your character and personality by the way you approached him walking, the way he would fix you with his stare. So, and after that, he became a Jesuit, obviously. He got several degrees, one in ancient Semitic languages. There was a time he was actually crawling through caves in the Middle East, the Sinai, one of the people originally looking for the Dead Sea Scrolls, because he could actually speak and read ancient Aramaic. He was almost like an Indiana Jones type figure, if you want to think of instead of Harrison Ford, Malachi Martin, very much so. And that's where he was introduced to exorcism over in the Middle East.
Wow.
And this is before he started his exorcisms. He did all that plus way more.
Oh, exactly. And that's where he was introduced to exorcism back in Alexandria, Egypt, back in the 1960s.
Right. Wasn't he doing an archaeology project and they called him to help? Is that the story?
Yes, it was an archaeology project in what are called the ancient Hamro-Semitic languages, the languages that were spoken at the time of Christ and hundreds of years before.
Oh.
Yep.
And we have a minute left, but I believe the story he told was he was working on that project, and the priest that was performing an exorcism at the time, his assistant fell ill, and they asked him if he could fill in, and that's how it all got started.
Right. That's right, and that's how Malachi got kind of pulled into exorcism, although he would say that there was a greater plan at work.
Oh.
So I have to believe that. I knew him too well not to believe it. Let's put it that way.
Okay, I think that's a good time to start there, and then we can go right into the exorcism stories. Um, wow. I'm Mr. Haunted. I'm with my co-host Brock Burrows, with Rob Marro and Marty Stalker, and we'll be right back with more on the Haunted Chronicles. Welcome back to the Haunted Chronicles, and we're talking about the life of Malachi Martin with Marty Stalker and Rob Marro. And Haunted Chronicles, home of your guaranteed halftime shout-out. All the chatters in the room tonight, thank you for coming. Barry, Chad, Brock, Paul, Heavy Metal Psychic Melissa, Dr. Dave, Kara E, Desi, Russell, Debbie D, Lady Red Light, Peg, Sprinkles, KLF, Dead Dude Chad, Heidi G, Tiffany, Ann Maria, Maggie Renee, Nicholas, Kathleen, Karen, Carol, Amy, Fuzzy, Terry, Alex, Victor and Linda, Paul, Tristan, Rabbi, and Cheryl and Stacy, and they're listening at home. Their computer's broke. And anybody else? Shout out, Brock.
No, I'm good.
I
think we covered like 400 people there, so we're good.
And I also want to thank all these people shared the page, and that means a lot to me, so I want to give them recognition. Causeway Pictures, Susan, Maggie, Debbie, Mercedes, Rick, Amy, Fuzzy, Lydia, Frankie C, Betsy Ann, Brock, and Patty. And I also forgot Frankie B and Annie B for shout-outs. Thank you, and we're back. Wow. Marty,
Yes.
did you want to tell us a story about what happened to you?
Yeah. So I'm quite a rounded bloke. Where when I see weird stuff going on, I always like to stay skeptical. But I would say once I really started getting into this project, a few things are happening around the house. And particularly, there was one day, and this isn't a seedy story. I was in the shower, right? I was in the shower. Let's get cut to the point. But I was in the shower, and I was, washing my hair, and I had this. It was quite strange. I had a vision. My eyes were open, but I could see this playing out in my mind, and I was walking through New York, and there was a lot of people around. Some were walking past me, some were walking towards me, and they were staring at me, very much sort of suspicious. Some were angry, some were not sure. It was quite strange. You can imagine just people in the street, tourists, business people, just looking at me, and they were staring at me. It was a point of view, like a POV sort of image, and through all this crowd, I could see this very small framed an old priest, and he was in the middle of on the pavements, and everyone was hustling, bustling past him, and I instantly recognized him as Malachi Martin, and I was walking towards him along the street, and there was people at this stage, people were bumping into me, people were the aggression was increasing, and Malachi just sat. He was just stood in the middle of this pavement, and people were going past him and going past me, and he reached out to me with his hand and with a smile on his face, and I got nearer and nearer to him, and I held out my hand, and the moment I shook his hand is the moment the vision went, and that was the stage where for me, and you can believe that or don't believe that, but for me that was the stage where I was like, right, let's get this story told, let's get this film made, and I'm a very skeptical person. I'm religious, but I'm still skeptical about things like that, and I wasn't hungover, it was all just a normal morning, getting up, routine, getting a shower, and this just sort of like just this happened, and it was very strong, and that was it for me, and that was I need to do this, make this film, and no one's going to stop me, no matter what. So it gave me the bit of a sort of a smack on the arse and say, right, let's get going and let's get this made. So I mean, there's also been a lot of things happening behind the scenes as well, and I got a chance to interview Robert about a year and a half ago in New York, just to get some sort of just to get some interviews with Robert in the can, just to get a feel of how Robert was on camera, his presence, and what was his answers like, and sort of, you know, make a decision for myself whether or not Robert could actually carry this film, you know, not in a sense on his shoulders, but you know, could he do this? Because he's not a trained actor. He's you know, he is who he is, and I got to interview Robert, and it was an exceptional interview, and it's one that I'll never forget. And I'm sure Robert can come in now and explain what happened after the interview with Robert in New York.
Sure. Well, Marty, I don't know if I could live up to that kind of build-up, but anyway, thanks, Marty. First off, you know, one of the things that you know, I'm like Marty. I approach everything from the background of belief, but with a healthy dose of skepticism. I am a devout Catholic. I did work for the United States government in a covert capacity, and that's when I knew Malachi. He actually got me in to meet the Pope, now St. John Paul II. But as Marty just alluded to, I actually invited him up to our corporate offices up near Grand Central Station, and he interviewed me in a conference room, and we had a chat, Marty, for about an hour and a half or so?
Yeah, even more, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. 1 hour later, I'm driving home, and I'm driving a Nissan Xterra in New Jersey, and I'm stopped at a traffic light on the highway listening to the sports, and out of nowhere, a woman comes up behind me doing about 50 miles an hour in a Toyota minivan, and she never even made an attempt to stop. She just rammed me full force. And, you know, that's why I believe that there's no such thing as a coincidence in the world of spirit, as Malachi used to say, because I dimly remember there was an Orthodox Jewish gentleman who actually mentioned something about was able to break into the vehicle after the accident, and he was holding my head upright until the paramedics got there. No. And he was actually a paramedic himself for the Orthodox Jewish Hatzolah Medical Service in Brooklyn, New York. And he was on his way up to the night shift, and he saw the accident happen. And then the next thing I know, I wake up in a hospital in central New Jersey in the trauma unit, and my wife is looking down at me with eyes probably as big as saucers. And both my own doctor and the doctor at the trauma unit said, "You are very lucky to be alive," because the woman says she never saw you. Now, if you know what a Nissan Xterra looks like, I find that a little hard to believe, because she hit me full force. There was no opportunity for braking. There was no brakes, squealing, no noise. There was just impact and then wake up in the hospital. And as a result of that, I suffered a herniated spine, traumatic brain injury, and some degree of recurrent memory issues that persist until this day. And I asked a priest friend of mine, who actually happens to be a very devout, more traditionalist type of priest. And I asked him, I said, "What do you make of that?" And he says, "Oh, you were given a warning. You were given a warning that you were displeasing someone by what you were doing." So, and that's when I kind of said, kind of the way Marty had his vision, and I totally accept that, because knowing Malachi, I have no problem believing that. And knowing in the back of my mind that when that happened, that was a challenge thrown down to me. And I said, "The hell with it. Moving forward 100%.
You know what?
Wow.
That I just skipped 4 pages in my notes because there's this quote that was haunting me since I saw it. I was looking up your IMDb, and it had the tagline, "You can't look at the devil and not expect him to look back."
Exactly.
And I've also,
I mean,
yeah.
Sorry. I was in the film itself. I was lucky enough to go. I was invited last year to Rome to go to they run an exorcism college. Sorry, wrong. They run an exorcism course every year out of the Vatican University, and I was invited over to interview some of the the top exorcists in Rome, which is fascinating, because what I want to do with this film is to look at how exorcism was treated in the 70s, 80s, even the 90s, and look at it now, sort of exorcism and the way the devil's, you know, interpreted today. And going to Rome last year was so important to me, because in the film you're actually going to see how the church responded to it in the 70s, for example, and now you see in the fact that there is actually a course every year, which is run by Exorcist, but it's also open to science-based practitioners to come in and to do this course. And I was sat there, and the Exorcist was an amazing fella, and he said to me, he said, you can't be talking about the old Scratch himself and not expect to be visited, not so much by himself, but by his minions, and sort of he was basically telling me, Frank, don't expect, you're not going to get let off lightly, by doing this. So from day one, I've respected the antagonist in the film, in the sense that I've had my family, I've got 2 daughters and a wife, and I've had them blessed, and so I have taken precautions, but there's also all sorts of things going on in the house at the moment, particularly now. When it's always when the project really picks up pace is when things start to happen, and I'm a very protective person of my family as well, and I'm actually in America at the moment, and it's hard for me to leave my family at home, and even when I was leaving the last 3 days before I left on Wednesday, my Labrador dog has been going absolutely ballistic. Absolutely, he's been going crazy, and it's not like him. He's been barking at something in the house, and I felt bad because I've actually left now for 7 weeks to work on this film, and so it's a bit like the Ralph. I'm not sure if you know, like with the Ralph Sarchi story about sorry, excuse me. It's this protection thing with it does affect you. Might not be you personally, but it does affect your family as well because they're involved in this thing as well. So so I mean it's. Again, I'm just I'm still driven, and we need to make this. But Rome for me was a fascinating chapter, and it will be a fascinating chapter in the film because it's real and it's happening, and there's particular hotspots in the world as well, and the church is taking it very, very seriously.
Yeah, I think we all agree. Anybody that gets involved with this or tries to help someone or get the word out or anything, we all pay for it in some way.
Well, this is Rob. One thing I just wanted to add in is that Malachi often told me that right before he died that's when the interest in the internet had just come into being for 4 or 5 years, and there was a burgeoning interest in the whole ghost hunting phenomena. And he told me that everyone calls it supernatural activity. If you watch the various shows on television, we detect supernatural activity with EMFs and orbs or whatever. And Malachi always told me, he said, there's this very clear difference here. He says there is the natural world on which we operate. There is God's world, which is the true supernatural. He said the level, that's right, the preternatural is the domain of the fallen angels. And he said, no matter how smart we think we are in dealing with them, they are always more brilliant. And that's why he told me, what was his statement was something about, because I told him I had an interest in, things like ghost hunting and that. And he said, he looked at me, he fixed me with that look he had with those little half glasses he used to wear. And he said, if you're smart, he said it in his Irish brogue, but he said, if you're smart, you won't be touching it with a 10-foot barge pole. Yeah. And so when he told me that, I said, okay, back off. Thank you very much.
And you want a question, Brock?
No, I was going to say, Jimmy, we're screwed then.
Yeah, you guys are involved now.
You're in it.
I have been, and I try to get out of it, but it keeps coming back. I just wanted to touch quickly on this before we get to some more stuff. This all kind of blends into. There's are you going to touch on it all in the film about the mystery of the mystery around his death? There's some people.
I think. Sorry, go on.
No, please tell me.
Let's bring Robert into this because Robert actually received a phone call from Malachi from hospital, so I'm sure Robert can lead us up to the death of Malachi.
Yeah.
Yes, Malachi and I had been working together, and this is something I won't give too much away. It's something you'll see in the film. Okay. On an exorcism case up in Connecticut involving a young child. And about a week before, we had gone up there several times. It was a very preternaturally creepy situation, as Marty knows. And Malachis' birthday and I were only separated by 2 days in late July. And we had gotten to the point as friends where you don't exchange gifts. You just sit down for a nice meal and toast each other with a glass of wine in an Italian restaurant. And I was looking forward that evening to actually having dinner with him at the Isle of Capri on the Upper East Side. It was our haunt. And I got a phone call from him, and he was still in his apartment, and his voice was weak. And he said, he used to call me Bob. And he said, Bob, I'm very sorry. I'm not going to be able to make our dinner appointment tonight. And I said, what's wrong? He said, the quote was, I've taken a bit of a tumble. He said, I was reaching for a book in my library standing on a stool, and Old Scratch shoved the little stool out from under me, and I've hit my head on the corner of the table. And then he was so apologetic. He said, so Bob, I'm dreadfully sorry, but I'm not going to be able to make our dinner tonight. And those were the last words we ever spoke together, because the next thing I knew, he was in a coma in Lenox Hill Hospital, hooked up to more machines than I've ever seen. So that is how he passed away as a result of internal complications from striking his head on the corner of a desk.
And I don't know if this is a rumor or, on the internet, I'm trying to find information, and it said his fall seemed to be delivered by an unseen hand.
Yes, he said that. The stool was pushed out from under him.
Right.
He said because Old Scratch was not terribly pleased with what we've been trying to do up in Connecticut. Wow. And that's what happened. He made very clear he was shoved.
And can we get a contact email? So if anybody wants to contact
yeah, totally. So yes, so the big importance thing, the big important thing for me at the moment is where the big cruise coming over to New York, probably 21st of February onwards, and we're looking to speak to people who has a direct sort of experience with Malachi, in the sense that they've actually met him. And again, just to recap, there's plenty of people out there who have a strong word about Malachi, but I've never met them, and so they're not really the people I want to speak to. I want to speak to people who he's had an effect on their lives in some way, whether it be through exorcism, whether it be through spiritual direction, just somebody who has met him or had a brief encounter. Even if you think it's trivial, just get in touch with us. You're very important to us in the sense that we just need to speak to people, because I know he touched the lives of a lot of Americans, and they're the people that are important to us to actually chat to. And so I've got an email address here. It's info@causewaypictures.com, and if you want to use that one and put it on the chat room, or put it on the social media page. So that's info@causewaypictures.com, and if you want to email us through there with a contact number or an email address, whatever you feel comfortable sending through, and then we'll get in touch with you, and we'll have a chat to you before and see if you want to come on camera and talk to us about Malachi, basically.
Okay, so for anyone not in the chat, we posted it in the chat twice. For anyone listening, it's info@causewaypictures.com. And please let them know if you have a story, like you said. Thank you. And where were we now? There's so much to talk about.
I mean, I sort of, with the film itself, when I started really getting into writing the story, from day one, I couldn't really get this. It was an incredible image of, we've got a young Robert, intelligence officer with a very old Irish former Jesuit priest in this car, and they were traveling across the east coast of America, attending exorcisms, etc. I just could not get this image out of my head. Mm-hmm. A very, very powerful image of these two close friends in this car. And obviously, Robert will explain in the film that he used to talk about all sorts of things inside this car, and it's just this relationship that I just thought was so powerful. And what you'll see in the film is you'll see Malachi's first experience, which is what Robert picked up on before in Egypt. So you're going to see Malachi's first encounter with exorcism, his first taste of it. You're also going to see Malachi's worst, which he states on the Art Bell show, his worst case, which was the exorcism of a young of a young priest himself who actually passed away. I don't want to sort of give away too many spoilers before I make the film, but we're actually going to show you the first. We're actually going to show you the worst, and we're also going to show you not so much with reconstructions. We're going to tell you a story about David Berkowitz, where for him, Malachi, it was the truest form of possession you'd ever seen. And then we're also going to show you his last exorcism, which is of this 5-year-old girl in Connecticut before he passed away himself, unfortunately. So you're going to see a lot of main events in Malachi's life as well. And it's going to be extremely powerful. And one thing I want to stress before we leave tonight is the fact that audiences are automatically going to expect to see the sensational. They're going to expect to see an exorcism type film about the sensational. But what my experience from Rome has taught me is it's not sensational. It's real. It's happening right now. It's not sensational. It's people are suffering, and it's serious. And with this film, I'm gonna scare, and I'm also going to educate, and without being sensational. And for me, the audiences are going to watch this, and they're going to be like, "Wow, this is not what I was expecting with an exorcism themed film." So, that's my last sort of statement about the film itself.
And what I wanted to mention is you have the best cast ever. There's Pope John Paul 1 and 2, Art Bell, Malachi Martin, Pope Benedict XVI, and Robert Marro, just to name a few.
Oh God. Well, I don't know if I'd put myself in that company, but I thank you.
You're welcome. That's an amazing cast.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and it's funny. I'm glad that you said that about the movie, because too many people out there today expect the Hollywood experience on these movies.
Yes,
and exactly. I think the real stories sometimes are more scary and more touching than what Hollywood could do.
But also,
well, that's very interesting, because Malachi himself said that what you see in the movies is, he referred to it as the Frankenstein Dracula theatrics. He said the real point of the exorcisms is much more terrifying, because he said it involves the devil's attempt to damn a human soul to hell for eternity. And he said that is more important and more terrifying than any image of a child's head spinning on the cinema.
Yep.
I just add my last sort of, I did say it was my last, but now it's my last. Rome, the Exorcist in Rome also told me about what Hollywood does is they sensationalize, but they also condense a lot of manifestations into one film. So
that's right.
So he told me an exorcist in Rome, for example, in his career, 20-year career, an exorcist could see one manifestation. Would that be levitation? Would that be spitting nails? I don't know, but they see one manifestation in 20 years of service. But what Hollywood does is they condense, because they're selling a film. It's an entertainment. They're selling a film. They're selling a product. They condense a lot of manifestations into one film. So Rome didn't deny what you saw in the film was fake. They just said that they condense a lot of manifestations into one film.
We are unfortunately out of time. We have to have you on again.
That flew in.
And thank you again, Robert. Thank you again, Marty. And like I said, keep track of the links. I'm going to post on my page later. Good night, Brock. Good night, Robert. Good night, Marty. Good night, Room.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you all.